So based on the title, hopefully you've clicked on this DeBacco University video looking to learn more information about growing cannabis from clones, and that's what I intend to provide here on this video. Let's get into some helpful tips on growing cannabis from clones. Well, first off, keep in mind that a clone is an exact copy. Clones are more properly called asexual vegetative propagation. It's a common method of propagation for cannabis as well as other plants. So this isn't something that's exclusive only to cannabis. It can be done with many other plant types. If you want a good other plant to kind of experiment with, tomatoes make another great example of learning or refining your cloning procedure. The goal of cloning is to maintain an exact chemical profile of the original plant, which in some cases could be a genetic isolate, meaning if you have something that's really unique that you can't recreate with a cross or growing more seeds, taking a clone is a great way to help preserve that. So what's the basic cloning procedure? And again, this can get more complicated or less complicated, but what's the basic procedure? I'm going to give you a list of the minimal materials that you need. Many are present in a general growing operation, so if you're growing in general, by all means you probably have many of these. How much resources you allocate will depend on the scale of your operation and resources you have available to you. We can see in the images here a simple kind of container here, a sealable container can work. We could see a lot of variability here, probably not the best if you're looking at having a large scale operation. You kind of want to make things efficient, but this just gives you an example of how simple it potentially can be. You don't have to overcomplicate it. So what's the simple and basic material list? Well, you want a stock or mother plant. Male plants can be cloned for breeding purposes, but typically it really is not done. However, the plant material should not be an autoflower, so keep that in mind. If you are growing autoflowers, typically you don't want to be going through and cloning that. I have another video explaining why that is the case. Well, a knife or even sharp scissors will work, and that's how you're going to basically go through and take your clone. Rooting hormone will help increase the success rate of your clone to produce roots. And the propagation environment, you're looking at typically diffused light, typically under 300 par or micromoles of light, a relatively high relative humidity, around 90%, and a temperature around 78 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit or 25 to 28 degrees Celsius. Now, rooting in clones, clones will form adventitious roots and will lack essential taproot that forms when you're starting with seeds. So if you're accustomed to starting with seeds and we have this nice strong radical or taproot, clones will not develop this strong taproot. They develop a whole bunch of advantageous roots off of the side of the stem, so they have a much more branched appearance, a much more branched structure very early on. So just keep that in mind. If you're used to doing seeds and going over to clones, it's going to be a little bit different, but with some of the tips here, going over some of the processes, hopefully you can be quite successful, and it's good to have this technique in case you do find that one genetic isolate plant that you want to have more of. Cloning is the way to go.